And it's horror time once again.
It's the Horror Guys. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about horror movies.
Yeah, we got 4 really interesting ones this week.
We did.
Some good ones and some stinkers.
But they're all interesting.
They are all interesting, that's for sure. All right, well, we this week we will start off with the seventh part of Halloween saga.
And
Halloween H20 from 1978.
It's sort of the third one, kind of. It's complicated.
It's a mess.
Yeah. They have messed up that.
The seventh movie
series.
is like the third one of the first trilogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's complicated.
All right. Well, then we're going to have a little bit of fun on a whole different holiday with Uncle Sam from 1996.
4th of July, fireworks and barbecues and stuff like that.
Yeah, and murderers.
Yeah.
And we'll try not to fall into 2014's open grave. And then we'll have a little bit of naughty fun with 1960's Peeping Tom. Beep, beep.
Peep, peep, peep.
Beep, beep.
Peep.
I just like saying that. And before we get going, we want to remind you that the 10th issue of Horror Bulletin is now available in print and ebook. Go over to horrorguys.com/monthly, and you can pick that up either direct from us, from Amazon. You can get your ebooks from Scribd, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Tolino, Thalia, if you're German.
Wherever fine books are sold.
Apple. Yeah.
Everywhere.
They're everywhere, and they're coming for you. Horror Bulletin Monthly. Yeah.
Sounds ominous when you put it that way.
This issue has 35 reviews in it.
Nice.
All the stuff from the podcast, plus all the bonus reviews, plus, who knows, maybe some extras sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Horror Bulletin, you go over to horrorbulletin.com, sign up for the email newsletter, and we've got a couple of bonus reviews for you this week. Do you remember what they were?
They were Beauty and the Beast. You saw a 1962 version that was a werewolf movie.
I swear I was expecting a fairy tale, and it was.
It wasn't, you said.
Werewolf was done by.
I did not see that one, but,
was it Mark Pierce? Oh, what's the guy's name?
I don't know.
Jack Pierce.
Jack Pierce.
The guy who did the original Wolfman makeup. And it's very similar to that.
Yeah, I saw some stills.
Yeah.
And also Travis, the true story of Travis Walton.
Goes along with one of the bonus films from last week, Fire in the Sky, where Travis Walton got abducted by aliens. And this is actually the documentary where they interview him and all the guys that were there and saw the thing. And
that's very interesting. Yeah, and his take on the actual events, they movied it up for Fire in the Sky.
Yeah,
and he really disagrees with
he
the movie.
He explains what really happened.
And explains, what he really felt happened. And
he still says he got abducted by aliens, but there wasn't all that weird scientific medical torture stuff from the movie.
Yeah, it was different. Yeah.
Do you believe him?
No. Well, okay.
You think he's lying?
No. I believe he believes what he believes, but I don't know. I'm really skeptical that he was abducted by UFOs. I don't know what the explanation is, but no, I'm not convinced that he was abducted.
All right. Well, check out that review or check out the movie, and you'll decide on your own.
Yes.
Yes, you will. Drip, drip, drip. Sounds like H2O.
H2O is in 20 years later.
Halloween 20. Halloween H2O, 20 years later from 1998.
This actually takes place 20 years after the second movie. Well, the first and second movie were the same night. So it takes place 20 years after the first and second movie, and deliciously pretends that the fourth, fifth, and sixth movies did not happen.
And the third. The third really didn't count either.
The third one is just kind of outside the
Halloween is kind of a weird series when you think about it.
Yeah, because Halloween 3 has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
And Halloween 4, 5, and 6 is just
really went off the
almost
rails.
A story to itself.
And then this is back as a sequel.
So yeah, watch part 1, watch part 2,
and then
watch
you can watch part 3,
7.
Part 7.
Directed by Steve Milner. Written by Deborah Hill, John Carpenter, and Robert Zappia. Stars Jamie Lee Curtis, who, would she die in the fourth one or something? I don't remember what her story was.
Yeah, I think so.
They dumped her in part 4, 5, and 6 and went with somebody else.
Yeah, she wasn't in them anymore.
She's back, and she's not
back.
dead.
Yeah.
Also has Josh Hartnett with one of those introducing roles. And Adam Arkin. 1 hour, 26 minutes.
And LL Cool J. Well, he's not top billing, but yeah.
Oh, he's there.
He's in it.
He's there.
Okay.
He's the bald one, by the way.
Yeah.
You can tell by the...
He's always typecast as a bald guy. You notice
It's
that?
funny. Yeah, that's the way it always works. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened? Spoiler free.
Well, it's an interesting sequel that allows them to pick up 20 years after the second movie. And like I said, it's blissfully as if the fourth, fifth, and sixth never happened, because especially the sixth one that got kind of stinky.
The sixth one, I think, is probably the worst of the series.
The weakest, yeah.
Yeah.
A little of the magic of the first two films is back, and overall, it was quite good.
Okay.
Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and she's bad. And, as she should be. Bad is bad in a good way.
Bad to the bone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the spoilery, everything that happens is, in Langdon, Illinois, a woman comes home from work and finds that her front door is open. We don't know who she is. We've never seen her before.
Nope.
She runs next door and gets young Jimmy to check out the house. Young Jimmy is,
Yep, that guy.
Yeah, the guy with the hyphen.
Yeah. Here, just a second. Continue talking.
He was Robin in the one movie.
He's been a lot of things.
And lots of things. Inception. I'm going to know.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, him.
In a very early role.
Not really. He was a child actor, so this was not really one of his earliest.
Early adult role.
He was very young here, though.
Yeah.
Well, he checks out the dark house and doesn't even try to turn on the lights. She never said the power went out.
That.
He goes through this dark house and never even reaches for the switch. And we even see the light switch in one scene.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't find anything, so she goes inside. For her, the lights don't work. We see that she has a photo of Dr. Loomis in her office, as well as a file on Laurie Strode.
An empty file.
It's
been ransacked, and the papers are missing.
She gets creeped out and runs back next door to find Jimmy has been murdered by Michael Myers, as well as Jimmy's friend. Michael grabs her just as the police arrive next door at her house. So she ran over to Jimmy's house. She called the police from her house, went next door to Jimmy's house, got killed there, and the police are just sort of wandering around doing nothing next door because they don't know anything about it.
Nothing going on.
Well, we hear the next morning that she was Marion, Dr. Loomis's nurse. Loomis died a few years ago, and she took care of him before that. Detective Fitz mentions they never did find Michael Myers' body 20 years ago. Credits roll. Do we ever see the detective again in this?
No.
They can't come up with a couple of detectives who are recognizable actors with names and everything, and they get like 5 lines and go away.
Very short role, yeah.
Carrie Tate wakes up with nightmares as her son John rushes into the room. Carrie Tate? No, that's Laurie Strode. We know her.
Yeah.
She was supposed to have been killed in a car accident years ago.
She's in hiding.
John takes care of his mother, who has a lot of mental issues and PTSD. Oh, and is coming up on October 31st again, which is never a good time of year for her.
She really doesn't like Halloween.
Now remember, from her point of view, this was just one bad night, a long time ago.
Very bad night.
That's pretty traumatized, though.
Yes.
You'd think she'd
20 years later, and it's still with her.
Well, for the rest of us, we've had to sit through 7 movies of this crap. Mm-hmm. Michael Myers has come back for 7 different movies. For her, though, she had one really... You'd think some therapy or something would probably have helped a whole lot.
Well,
one bad night.
She said it didn't. She couldn't get over it, couldn't get past it. Yeah.
All right. Well, she still imagined seeing Michael everywhere, even 20 years later. Out in the country, a girl and her mother stop at a park restroom to pee. They notice Michael's car is outside, but they don't see him until he steals her car. So this undestroyable mass murderer.
He's
also a car thief.
Oh, yeah. We knew that, though, from the first couple movies.
Laurie/Carrie and John argue about him taking a trip to Yosemite. John has a girlfriend named Molly and friends Charlie and Sarah at school, none of whom are able to go to Yosemite with the rest of the school. Laurie and the school's guidance counselor, Will, also aren't going. We see that Laurie and Will have something else going on between them.
They're very good friends.
Oh, yes. But she's worried that her past is going to mess this up, too. Spoiler, it does.
Yep.
The school security guard, Ronnie, wants to be a writer, and he lets John and Charlie out through the gate. He's not a very good guard.
No, he isn't. But he's kind of he's a pretty good comic relief in the role, too, because it's
erotica novel.
And he's reading them to his wife on the phone to try them out. And his wife, we never see. She's only a voice on the phone, but multiple times.
He keeps getting called away from the phone, and she's like, "Don't stop!"
Yeah.
Will wants Lori to open up and tell him everything, but she still isn't ready. But he knows she's damaged goods. Lori catches John and Charlie in town, and she's not happy, and they argue some more.
Yeah, it's a closed campus. They're not supposed to be in town or away from school.
Yeah, I think the guard is there more
secure.
to keep kids in than anybody else out. It's not a prison. Mm-hmm. Lori holds a class where they all talk about Frankenstein, fate, redemption, and having nothing else to lose. I suspect these themes will be coming up again.
Mm-hmm.
Lori gives John permission to go to Yosemite, but since none of his friends are going, he decides to secretly skip the trip. Norma, somebody we don't know really, who's played by Janet Leigh.
Who was Jamie Lee Curtis's mother in real life.
In real life, yes. Runs into Lori as the students all drive away in a bus. She gives her some motherly advice about getting over bad things happening in the past. You know, like when you get stuck in a motel with a psycho. Call back.
Yep.
Night falls, and we see that Ronnie may be the worst security guard ever. Lori sees Michael, but it's really just Will again. You know, that's kind of dangerous when you see somebody and it's not who you think they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For half a minute, I thought maybe Will was whipping that mask on and off.
Yeah, that he was messing with her. Yeah, that occurred to me.
I guess that game only works in Friday the 13th movies. Lori finally tells Will her true backstory and her real name. He's heard the story, but didn't know about Lori faking her death. He's surprised, but pretty okay with the story, really. It occurs to Lori that all the murders happened when her sister was 17 years old. When her sister was 17, Michael killed her.
Yeah, when Michael was a little boy.
When she was 17, that's when all her troubles happened. And John...
Guess who's 17? Her son.
Just turned 17 today.
Yikes.
Could that be a pattern? Well, she finds John's suitcases, and she knows he didn't go to Yosemite. Huh. Oops.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sarah and Charlie die grisly deaths. Michael stabs John in the leg, but John and Molly get away. The kids catch up to Lori and Will, and Lori actually gets a face-to-face look at Michael at last. Will takes Lori's gun and then shoots Ronnie the guard. Bam, 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 he's dead.
Accidentally.
Oops.
Yeah.
Will doesn't have time to get too upset about it because Michael stabs him in the back almost immediately.
Oops.
Lori, John, and Molly run to the gate. Lori tells Molly to drive John to the neighbors and call the police, but she's not leaving herself. She turns around and goes back inside, grabbing an axe. She goes hunting for him.
She's
the Halloween theme at this point.
She's pretty badass in this.
Yeah. The two have a running battle for a while, but she eventually stabs him good, and his body drops over the railing. Whew, he's finally dead at last.
What a relief.
Yeah. Well, she limps downstairs and actually looks surprised when his body is still there. She pulls out the knife and gets ready to stab him again when Ronnie the guard, who isn't really dead after all, stops her. The police show up and load Michael's dead body into an ambulance, which Lori promptly steals.
Yeah,
she knows how this works.
She ain't buying that he's dead.
She knows the rules. She watches Michael wake up, which she was expecting, so she slams on the brakes and watches him fly through the windshield. When he gets up, she runs into him, driving him, her, and the ambulance over a cliff and pinning Michael's body underneath. Lori stumbles over, picks up the axe, and approaches the burning van. She then, get this, cuts off his head. It's going to be hard to come back from that one, right? Right?
Yeah.
Well, in the opening credits, we hear lots of voiceover dialogue from Dr. Loomis. Turns out, he's saying things we've heard him say in the other movies.
But it's not really him.
None of the original voice footage could be used from that, because I guess they had music under it or something. So actor Tom Kane imitated Donald Pleasance's voice to re-record all that dialogue.
And did a good job.
If you ever need a Donald Pleasance stand-in, there he is.
Mm-hmm.
This one is actually very good. It's a far step above part 4, 5, and 6, and you could argue 3 if you wanted to. This film basically pretends everything after part 2 didn't happen.
Yeah, people love part 3 or hate part 3.
Part 3 is its own thing.
But it's really its own thing.
Yeah.
It's a standalone movie, not really part of the series.
Yeah, I heard after part 7, they were thinking about doing, another,
like an anthology,
some other kind of thing, like an anthology, like a Halloween 3 kind of deal.
Okay,
but they didn't. They went with more Michael and Laurie.
Okay,
we'll talk about that another time
because there's more.
Do you like fireworks?
Happy 4th of July.
Woohoo! Sparklers!
Uncle Sam in 1996.
Roman candles and axes in the head all go together so well.
Yep. Directed by William Lustig. Written by Larry Cohen. Stars William Smith, David Shark Freilich, and Christopher Ogden. Run time is 1 hour and 29 minutes, and there's a trailer on YouTube.
Trailer is actually better than the movie.
Well, this was not a great one.
Well, spoiler free. Sometimes the dead come back to life, because reasons. This one is a little unclear on that point. That aside, it's decent. A little light on the on-screen kills, but the effects, acting, and story are okay overall. Watchable and entertaining, but shy of greatness.
Yeah, it lacked greatness.
Yeah, it's the dramatic parts are decent enough. Mm-hmm. The horror parts are really weak. It's almost like the director wanted to be doing something else.
And didn't want to be directing a horror movie.
Yeah.
Something.
So what happens?
Well, we begin in Kuwait on June 14th. The Major appears at the crash site. Can they identify someone from their tags? Well, the plane crashed 3 years ago. They just now found it and are just now finding the body.
See, I was very confused at this point, and they didn't actually mention the 3 years ago until much later into the movie that they'd just found he'd been gone for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was not clear at this point, and I was kind of wondering what the big deal was.
Yeah. Well, the sergeant says it looks like friendly fire, but the Major don't want to hear that crap. The body is Master Sergeant Sam Harper. Well, Sam comes back to life, shoots both the sergeant and the major.
Neither of which had anything to do with him.
Don't be afraid. It's only friendly fire, he moans, and then credits roll. And, this whole, the whole premise of it is kind of lame.
Well,
he comes back to life because he's angry, I guess, because he was killed by what might have been friendly fire. But these two guys are just soldier guys.
They didn't do nothing wrong.
They didn't do nothing
as far
wrong.
as we know.
Yeah.
Well, if you watch the trailer, the trailer explains that he's killing like bankers and greedy people and liars and thieves.
Well, later.
Later, yeah, but we never really find out what his goal is. Why is he back? What does he want?
And what brought him back?
Yeah, he comes back to the United States and he kills a bunch of people because reasons, yeah.
Because that happens sometimes.
Most of the people he kills kind of have it coming, but not all.
But not all of them, yeah.
Oh, well, what next?
Well, in Twin Rivers, back in the U.S., we're up to July 1st now, we see a normal-looking neighborhood. We see young Jody asleep next to a photo of his uncle, Sam, and he has a dream about Uncle Sam, and he wasn't dead in the dream. Jody loves his uncle, but his mother, Sally, doesn't seem to think too much of her dead brother. Well, Louise gets out of her...
Louise.
Oh, Louise, yes. Louise gets out of her boyfriend Phil Burke's police car and finds Sergeant Twining. Is it Twining or Twinning?
Yes.
Twining, yes. Waiting for her on the porch. The men in the desert have finally identified the body. They identified the body.
Yeah.
As her husband, missing for 3 years. And he gives her the dog tags. But, that's kind of funny, sad, because he's like, I hope someday you can move past this and be over this and, move on.
We just saw her with her boyfriend.
She was just, smooching with her boyfriend in the police car. So, yeah.
After your soldier husband has been missing for 3 years in combat, you kind of make that assumption anyway. So I don't think that it's terrible to assume that.
It's not like she was, deliberately cheating on him. I think she had moved on and accepted that he was gone. But now she's got confirmation.
Now he's legally dead.
Yeah. Well, Sergeant Jed Crowley complains that he was the only one who made it home and he wishes he hadn't. He's an older combat vet. He was a war hero, and he helped influence Sam back in the day.
Talk Sam into going into the military.
Yeah. Well, Louise tells Sally about finding the body, and it's clear they're both kind of glad that he's definitely not coming back. They were kind of scared of Sam. Jody takes his uncle's medals to school with him. His teacher, Mr. Crandall, was a war protester during Vietnam, and he was a draft dodger. And Sam Harper's body arrives back in town, and they wheel the coffin into the family's living room.
Which I know some places do that, but that is just weird.
It is, yeah. It's not really a common occurrence anymore nowadays. But
it wasn't common in '96.
Wasn't common back then, but yeah. Well, Sergeant Twinning's a bit of a creeper, and he hits on all the grieving wives and seems to do pretty well taking advantage of the situation. Betty is dating Ralph, a lawyer, and she tells him the story about her abusive ex. Ralph brags about how he got a bunch of tax evaders let off in court. That night, Jody sneaks downstairs and opens Uncle Sam's sealed coffin, and we see movement inside. He just unseals it. He doesn't open it and see it. But Jed comes to the funeral, and Jody asks a lot of questions about his wooden leg that he lost in a landmine. Jed is very much against the idea of Jody joining the military. Jed says that Sam liked killing.
Sam doesn't really sound like he was all right.
Yeah, he's a jerk and abusive and mean to his sister, mean to his wife, and yeah. Well, late that night, out in the cemetery, a bunch of college kids are burning the flag, and Sam wakes up.
They're burning the flag right over his grave.
This will not do, yes. Well, he puts his medals on and gets to work. Sam hunts down one of those 20-foot-tall Uncle Sam stilt walkers and kills him. And again, that guy wasn't really... Well, he was peeping in the girl's window, I guess, on the second floor. So I guess he was a bad person and deserved to die. But, again, it's, these aren't really, capital crimes that these people are doing. Sam thinks so. Well, he takes his clothes and puts together an Uncle Sam costume with a mask and everything. Sam comes across one of the flag burners and buries him alive, and another one gets strung up on the flagpole. And then it's the 4th of July, and the big celebration is about to begin. Mr. Crandall goes looking for George Washington's hatchet for the parade. Sam gives him the hatchet in the head.
Ow.
Mm-hmm. A young guy messes up the national anthem, kind of on purpose. He does like a rock version of it that's really awful. And, of course, Sam doesn't like that. Ralph, on the other hand, thinks it's hilarious. Sam kills the sand kid with a meat cleaver. There's a little blind boy suddenly, Barry.
That we've never seen before. Yeah, we're like more than halfway through the film at this point.
And we're introducing a major character in a wheelchair who was hurt with fireworks by his friends. Well, Sam comes to him and offers to get revenge for him.
It's implied that the kid set him on fire on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or we're just extremely careless. A crooked congressman arrives to give a speech. Jed runs into Uncle Sam, and he's creeped out, but he's all right afterwards. Deputy Phil makes his move on Louise, who doesn't seem to appreciate it. He thinks that Louise is still afraid of Sam, even though he's been dead for years. Ralph is killed, and Jody says that's because he was a crook. Which he was. He was kind of a crooked lawyer.
Yeah, getting the tax evaders off.
Yeah. Well, Sally and Louise get tired of hearing Jody hero worshipping Sam, and they explain what an abuser he was. And Jody thinks she's making it all up. He's not entirely convinced.
He's a hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, night falls, and the congressman is tied to the fireworks display. Boom. Deputy Phil gets impaled on a flagpole. Blind Barry can't see what's happening, but he's not afraid.
Okay, so the congressman, he's crooked. He didn't want to be there. He's a liar.
The deputy was a good guy, just doing his job.
The deputy, he busted some girl for having some marijuana in her pocket.
And kept it
himself.
Okay.
But other than that, he didn't do anything. We don't know that he was going to use it himself. It just sort of implies that he was sneaking it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and he seemed like a good guy otherwise.
Yeah, Sam's pretty harsh in his judgments.
And there's this one girl who was doing cooking. She was cooking in the
Oh, yeah.
barbecue.
And all she was doing was cooking.
And he stole the meat cleaver from her. We didn't see. Oh, she's the one that had the marijuana to begin with.
Oh, yes, yes.
So he killed two for one that way.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
He's harsh.
Yeah, watch what you're doing on the 4th of July. Uncle Sam will get you.
Yeah. Well, Barry, the little blind kid, tells Jody that Uncle Sam is his real Uncle Sam. The two boys tell Jed, who gets it all. They tell him who did it all. Yeah. So the trio goes back to Jody's house, and they see that the coffin now holds Sergeant Twinning's body, not Sam.
Wondered what happened to him.
Uh-huh. Yep. Jed runs him to Sam again, and they argue. Louise and Jody finally see Sam without his mask on, and it's not pretty. No. Louise empties her pistol into him without much effect. Jody tells Jed to go get his cannon.
Yeah, we see Jed shooting off the cannon in the town square earlier in the day, and it's one of them big old Civil War type cannons.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jody keeps Sam busy while Jed goes back to town, brings back the cannon. Jed blasts him, but of course that's not enough. Jed blasts him a second time, and this time the whole house explodes around him.
Well, here's the thing about cannons. They shoot big iron balls.
They don't
explode. This one explodes twice.
Well, there was such a thing as exploding cannonballs, but I really doubt if
Not at a 4th of July party.
Yeah, I really don't think Jed would have had that kind of cannonballs.
Actually, he would have really had a cannonball at the 4th of July anyway. They just shoot off,
with a sufficient charge to
empty cannons, basically.
Fire a cannonball. Yeah, they're dummy rounds. But anyway, it worked here. And the next morning, Jody burns all his soldier toys. He's done with that soldier stuff.
Okay, well, it's well shot and looks really good. It is not a cheap-looking movie. The acting is fair to decent, except for Jody, who's kind of annoying. Child actors, you know how it is.
Kinda.
But it's all super predictable throughout. The killings are fairly uninspired, and the gore is pretty limited, with most killings happening off-screen. Yeah, we don't see him grab the congressman. We don't see him kill
a lot of the folks.
The President Lincoln with a bullet in his head or whatever it was. We don't know what happened there, really.
Yeah.
We don't see Sergeant Twining. Yeah, a lot of these deaths happen off-screen. Mm-hmm. It's, yeah. Their actual story is pretty good with the kid and the hero worship and all that. But not all the people who were killed had it coming, which is kind of a weak point. This kind of film usually works better when they all deserve it. Even if it's something like, the good girl who doesn't have sex survives. At least there's some sort of morality rule to it.
And this was not that clear.
No, some of these people didn't do anything wrong. The deputy and the teenage cook didn't do anything wrong. There's no obvious connection between Sam and Barry wasn't even introduced until halfway through the film. It's not clear to me why the story needed him at all, and it adds a whole layer of unnecessary things that aren't explained. Who hurt Barry? Why? Those kids. We don't know. Nothing happened to the kids.
Not that we know of.
And Barry wanted revenge? No, he didn't say he wanted revenge.
No. But Sam
Why
offered to do it.
Is Sam mentally linked with him? That he knows what he wants?
We don't know.
It's weird. The whole Barry thing, I don't know what that was about. Oh, well. Speaking of not knowing what something was about...
This was a little unclear.
We watched a short film this week, Abrecitos, 2022, directed by Tony Morales, written by him and Fer Zaragoza, stars Beatriz Salas, Carmen Salas, and Virginia Gomez, 9 minutes, 39 seconds. Link in the show notes to watch the whole thing. What happens?
A terrible phone call in the middle of the night shakes Laura's world. Meanwhile, little Inara plays in her room, and the appearance of an unknown being will test the mental and emotional stability of the two sisters.
Something happens in the dark.
Yeah. Well, sometimes scary fairy tales do exist. At least we guess they do, because it was kind of dark. But you mentioned that to me before I saw it, and I watched it in the dark, and it was very effective. It's one to see in a darkened room.
Because if you don't, you're not going to see nothing.
Mm-hmm, yeah. It's very tense and suspenseful. It's hard to tell what's going on, though. Exactly. Is it a metaphor? Is there a literal issue here? Or, are they just both in denial? It's
Well, they get a
open
phone
to
call from their
interpretation.
father saying their mother has just died.
And yet the little girl is on the phone with her mother.
She says
Saying,
she is. We don't hear anything.
Yeah, saying, well, talk to mother.
Yeah. And then the older sister sees something outside, and they go hide under a blanket. And then they come out from the blanket, and there is something outside. Why?
I don't know.
Was their mother evil? Are they evil? Just coincidental timing?
It's very unclear. Or was that her imaginary friend? Because that was mentioned.
Or was it her imaginary friend? And why is the imaginary friend trying to kill them?
Yeah. Imaginary friends are supposed to be friendly.
And if this is a metaphor for their grieving or something, why do it like this? I do not understand this one.
So watch this one and explain it to us.
Yeah, it looks good. I suspect it made sense to somebody.
The girls are really terrific actors, especially the little one.
Well, she's weird.
Yeah, but she's got that expression like, what it reminded me of was the actors in Get Out, where it looks like they're going to, they're smiling and want to scream at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
That's what their expression looks like a lot.
All right. So, we liked it. It's well made, but we got to admit we don't understand it exactly.
So check it out, because it's well made, and it's got some scare.
Yeah, link in the show notes. Just go over to YouTube and watch that one.
Yeah, check it out.
Next up, we've got Open Grave from 2013. I had not heard of this one. This was one of your choices.
It was. I saw it recommended on one of the subreddits, and checked out the preview, and it intrigued me, and I'm glad we saw it.
It's directed by Gonzalez Lopez Gallego, written by Eddie Borey and Chris Borey, stars Charlton Copley, Thomas Kretschmann, Josie Ho, and Joseph Morgan. Hour and 42 minutes. Trailer in the usual place. Spoiler free. It's a slow burn, putting together who these people are and what's going on. Maybe a little too slow of a burn at times, but it's well done and entertaining overall. Good cast, realistic effects, and a decent story. Not one you heard a lot of press about at the time.
No. And I was noticing interesting, Charlton Copley, his first screen role, his first credit on IMDb, he was the main guy in District 9.
Yeah?
Yeah, that poor guy that went through all that.
At the time when District 9 came out, people kept saying Neil Blomkamp was the greatest ever. He was so fantastic. I thought they were talking about the actor. I thought he was Neil Blomkamp. No, that was the director of District 9. He was just the star. Mm-hmm. But if you like that guy who was in District 9, here he is again.
Yes, he is.
What happens?
I've lost my place. Okay. Let me get. Oh, yes. A man wakes up in severe pain. His bones crack and pop, and he's really dirty. He pulls keys and a Zippo from his pocket, and we see that he's been injured as well. There's a dead man laying next to him. No, there's a whole pit full of dead people, and he's trapped down there with all of them. He finds a gun, and then someone throws him a rope.
There's keys, there's lighters, there's guns. Apparently these are not like, prisoners or something. Why would they have guns down there?
Right. Well, credits roll. And when he gets up to the top, there's nobody there. Who let him out? Well, the man makes his way through the rainy night, sees a nearby house. He goes in, finds several people, and a dead body laying in the living room. And the man explains he doesn't remember anything before the pit. He just woke up and doesn't know who he is. And then the body on the floor starts screaming. He's not really dead. Well, we soon learn that none of these people know who they are. They have a pile of driver's licenses, so they can figure out their names at least. But our man doesn't have one, so we don't have a name for him yet. And there's also a mute Chinese woman who doesn't understand English, but seems to know who everyone is.
She can read and write in Chinese, but she can't speak at all. And there's just no way to really communicate with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they try some ineffective sign language, but they're just not connecting with her at all.
But it seems like she knows what's going on, just has no way of explaining.
They search the house and find a calendar with the 28th circled in 2 days. The Asian woman runs off into the woods, and our guy starts having flashbacks. They find more bodies in the woods, corpses tied to trees with rope and barbed wire.
All over the place.
Yeah, like a ring surrounding the entire property. Well, Michael and Nathan go back to the house, They're back at the house. They still don't have any real memories, but they do have certain skills that they haven't forgotten.
One guy can play the piano. One guy can understand languages in books. So they've got their skills. They just forgot who they are.
Yeah. Well, they find a wild woman chained up in the shed who seems to know and dislike our guy, who is now going by John Doe. And the next morning, they search the grounds and find even more bodies. They're just everywhere. So something bad is going on here. Well, Michael finds a guy stuck in the barbed wire fence who's still alive. And he's not mentally right. But the man turns tables and kills Michael. Well, John and Sharon find a huge empty building with a little boy who calls the man Jonah. Back at the house, Lucas is having headaches and flashbacks, and he ain't looking right at this point. Yeah, something's bad. And at this point, you're starting to think it's some kind of plague or zombie plague or something along those lines, a disease.
Yeah,
the way he was. Nathan goes out alone and finds several cabins in the woods, of course, with more dead bodies. And each of the characters gets a little screen time so that we can get to know them better. And it's a little bit mundane and slow going there.
It stretches here.
A little bit stretched, yeah. Well, Lucas finds a lab in the basement with 4 large human-sized cells that are all empty. And he finds a video camera with footage showing Jonah experimenting on Lucas and the Asian woman. Nathan finds another crazy woman, and he knows that her name is Helen. She lunges at him. He barely escapes.
So at this point, it's looking like Jonah is the mad scientist torturing these people.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Mengele type.
But he doesn't remember it, and he seems like a decent guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
at this point, you got to ask, if somebody like that is guilty and he's totally forgotten the crime, is he ever going to regret it? Probably not. He doesn't know he did it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Sarah and Jonah come across zombie-like men working in the forest with axes who suddenly charge right for them.
Now I was thinking zombie just like you were thinking zombie at this point, but these guys are out doing something in the woods. They're actually cutting wood or working, so I kind of gave up on the zombie idea at this point.
Well, not entirely, though.
Well,
I think they were just kind of doing something out of habit.
You do what you're familiar with as a zombie.
I think
it's a Romero type.
I think these were lumber guys, and they were just, that was their basal function. They were doing what they barely remembered.
Okay, so they certainly behave like zombies after they see them.
Yeah. They charge after them, chasing after them with axes, and they're trying to frantically drive away, and they come across more dead bodies, and the zombie people won't approach. It's like they're scarecrows. That's why all the dead bodies are surrounding the property.
It's the smell.
It's keeping out the zombies or the infected or whatever's going on there. Well, they return to the house where Lucas points a gun at Jonah and explains what he saw on the tape. Jonah freaks out, and he really doesn't know what he's done.
You definitely get the impression he's not lying or faking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could be, but he's very good at it if he is.
Yeah. Well, Lucas dumps Jonah back in the pit of corpses, and there are lots of them.
Yeah, every time we see this, there's more corpses, it looks like.
Yeah. Lucas, however, seems to be becoming more and more unhinged. He's clearly sick. He attacks Sharon and the still unnamed Asian girl, but they fight back. The Asian girl throws a rope down to Jonah, which just about mirrors the scene in the opening credits. And now he's back up again.
Almost like a redo.
Yeah. Well, he still can't remember what's coming up on the 28th. He finds a camp with lots of photos and maps in it, which triggers some memories. And he runs into more zombie people who growl and get all hostile. He finds a cooler full of medicine, which causes him to remember still more, something about the army. And he gave a cooler of medicine to somebody to deliver to the army.
Take this to the army.
Yeah. So he takes the map. He remembers he's a doctor, and he was trying to cure the zombie plague. The cure knocks out the recipient while it works, greatly slowing their pulse and breathing, and gives them memory loss when they awaken. So they've all had the cure.
Ah, they were all zombies, and now they're not.
Lucas attacks him, and that's the problem. It's wearing off on Lucas. And Jonah is forced to kill him in self-defense. And elsewhere, Nathan finally regains his memories as well. He's Jonah's brother. So it's all coming together now. Zombies attack the house with Nathan and Sharon inside. Jonah races back to the house in his car until it runs out of gas, and then he runs on foot. Morning comes, and it's the 28th. Someone outside shoots the zombies, and Nathan yells for help, running outside. It's a rescue party! Yay! No, the soldiers shoot him, and not by accident. It's not a rescue party, it's a sterilization. Well, Jonah meets up with Sharon, while the Asian woman manages to evade the soldiers. Crazy woman stabs Sharon, and they end up right back in the corpse pit so they can hide. Oh, and Jonah and Sharon are a couple. Their memories come back.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonah objects them both with more cure so they can appear to be dead. And then I was thinking, oh no, but their memories are going to be gone again. They have to start over again.
She left him a note.
Yeah, well, she left him a note. Well, throughout the day, the soldiers throw in more bodies as they clean up. Before she passed out, Sharon did leave a note that explains everything. But he doesn't see the note when he wakes up, and his memory is gone again. The mute woman is immune to the virus, and she is the key to the cure. We hear Sharon's note explaining it all in a voiceover as Jonah and the mute woman walk away.
I find it very coincidental that she's the key to the cure, and she survived all this goofiness with no help and no understanding. And how is she able to survive everything?
Luck.
Pure luck, I guess.
Luck and badassery. Yeah. Well, we see thousands and thousands of dead bodies, but there's a sliver of hope that Jonah will recover his memory and recreate the cure, and the mute woman will be with him, but they may already be too late.
There's a lot of dead bodies there.
Yeah, there were.
Like maybe in the millions. I don't know where they would have gotten that many bodies. So, if you're a murderer and don't remember doing it, can you actually have any remorse for the crime? You don't even remember doing it? And for a while, it was looking like Jonah might be the next Dr. Moreau or something, but that's not the way it worked out. Yeah, those guys out in the woods, are they your rejects?
We don't know.
Well, it's a classic story of a group of people with no memory. Who are we? Why are we here? Who did this to us? It's clear that something very nasty has been going on, but the prime suspect also seems to be the hero of the story. It definitely didn't go where I expected, which is good, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I would in the beginning.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, definitely recommend this one.
Yes.
Okay, and every time we watch a documentary about classic horror movies, they talk about Psycho. They talk about, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And they talk about Halloween. And then there's this one they talk about from 1960 called Peeping Tom that I know I had never seen.
And I had never seen it.
We've heard about it and heard about it and heard about it, and finally said, we got to see Peeping Tom.
We do, and we did.
Directed by Michael Powell, written by Leo Marks, stars Karl-Heinz Bohm, Anna Massey, and Myra Schurer. Hour and 45 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. The film had a very poor reception. Yeah, it did. Yeah. A very poor reception at its release, and that makes no sense to us as modern viewers. Yeah, it was banned in England for decades.
It only showed for a few days, and a lot of countries banned it. And,
it was released about the same time as Psycho, and is compared to Psycho and by all the reviewers. But you couldn't see this for ages. It looks great. It's intriguing. It's suspenseful and well acted. This is considered to be the first slasher film, so it is historically very important. Although it's we'll talk about this more later, it's surprisingly low on gore. It's highly recommended. And yeah, I think this is my favorite movie this week, actually.
I don't know, because I really liked Open Grave.
Open Grave was good, but this is kind of special.
Well, kind of, yeah. But so is Open Grave.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, it's very Hitchcockian. It's very,
you said that about halfway through, and you hit it right on the nose. Did Alfred Hitchcock involved with this?
Yeah, it was really good.
Well, this is why it's compared with Psycho.
Yeah, as it should be. Yeah.
Well, a man wearing a hidden camera takes pictures of a woman on a street.
And it's funny, too, because it's 1960s. So
this hidden camera is like as big as a lunchbox.
It's as big as your
something.
head, yeah. But he's got this great big oversized coat, and he is able to hide it in the sleeve. But it's kind of funny, when we say hidden camera, we're not talking modern technology.
Loosely hidden.
Yeah.
Well, the woman on the street is a hooker, and she wants £2 for her services. And when we looked that up, it was like $16 or something in modern money.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, not much.
And we're not talking quality. Well, she leads him up to her place while he films the whole thing. We get it all from the camera's point of view. She starts to undress until he approaches her, and she starts screaming. We don't see quite why, but we see that it's what's happening. Credits roll as we watch the footage from the camera play back on a screen. He has filmed the murder.
Mm-hmm.
And we resume the next day with the camera filming the aftermath and the police carrying out the woman's body. Mark goes to work afterwards. He works in a newsstand, or at least that's his second job. But the proprietor also sells dirty pictures on the side.
Pornography.
They didn't just have a porn store at the time. It was all over the counter, You got to ask. You got to say the right things.
You got to ask for the special stuff. Yeah.
The customer there says he does not want to be on their mailing list, but laughs when he sees the envelope marked educational books.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the first thing I saw when I saw this customer was like, that's Alfred Hitchcock. It's not, but there's an actor who really resembles him. And I wonder if that was maybe even intentional.
Possibly, yeah.
Mark then goes to a photo shoot to take pictures of models in skimpy clothes. One of the models today has a disfigured lip and doesn't want her face photographed, but Mark is really interested in that. Elsewhere, Helen Stevens is having a birthday party, and they find Mark peeping in through the window. He doesn't actually say Peep Peep. And his name's Mark, not Tom.
Peeping Mark.
Yeah, he lives upstairs from them, and she runs out and greets him, inviting him into the party. Mark seems painfully shy and runs upstairs. He then watches the dead body footage from this morning. A little later, Helen brings him up a piece of cake. She knows he's a photographer and wants to see his films. Obviously, he can't show her what he's just been watching, but he does show her his cameras and darkroom equipment.
And he's got a ton of stuff.
It's important to him, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole room dedicated to it.
Actually, his photography room is bigger than his living room and his kitchen put together.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. He shows her old home footage that his father took, and it's pretty darn strange all by itself. Helen is freaked out by seeing Mark's weird childhood, and Mark's father turns out he was some sort of a scientist who was fascinated with filming reactions to fear.
And I don't think we mentioned it here, but it was discussed here when they're talking about stuff, the rent, and
Yes, this was the old family home.
He's the landlord. He owns the building, and he's rented out sections of it to help his expenses.
Yeah, there's Helen lives below him, and I think Nathan or somebody lives down the hall. Yeah, there's numerous people lives in this house now,
and her mother too,
and her mother, yeah.
And
that comes up as a point later on.
Mm-hmm.
But in these old in these old videos Mark's father took, the boy was laying in bed asleep, and he'd put like a lizard on the bed and watch him scream.
Shine bright lights to wake him up and make loud noises and startle. He'd like to tape the fear reactions, and
it would certainly be considered abuse today.
Oh, it certainly would.
I'm not sure what the legal side of that would have been in 1960, but there's no doubt what it would be today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, Mark goes to a day job working in Hollywood as a cameraman on a legitimate film.
Well, and I remember, too, reading that's one of the things that critics griped about. The director in these movies of Mark as a kid, the director used his own son playing Mark as a kid. No. In those videos where we saw Mark's father, child Mark, and the father was an old bald man. Yeah.
The old bald man was the son. The director was quite old.
Oh, I misunderstood.
His grown son.
Oh, his grown son. Okay. I thought it was the kid.
No,
okay.
the son was playing his father in this one.
Oh, okay.
It's weird.
Oh, all right.
And I really don't see why anybody would care.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not his own son in the bed.
Yeah, it's not like he's actually abusing the kid.
Yeah.
It's called acting.
Yes. Well, Vivian, an actress, a legitimate actress, not a porn star, works on the same film, and she waits after work that night to meet up with him for a special film. He wants to do a little video of her dancing.
Mm-hmm.
She dances, and he arranges the set with a blue suitcase in it, and he wants her to look frightened on film, and she wants to know her motivation for being frightened. Well, he gives it to her.
Yeah.
Back at the house, Helen is getting a little infatuated with Mark, but her blind mother doesn't approve. I never trust a man who walks quietly. She's blind. She hears everything.
Yeah.
Mark gets her a birthday
she's
present.
Very astute.
Oh, yeah, she is. And Helen mentioned that she's a writer of children's books, and she's just done a book about a magic camera, which Mark finds very interesting. He agrees to take photos for her book.
Yeah, the publisher says, "Oh, there's no way you could do actual photos like that." And she's like, "Oh, there must be some way."
And he's like,
Mark's
yeah, we can do it.
the challenge, yeah, I want to do that.
On set the next day, the director details what the star needs to do in today's scene. Uh-oh. When they open the blue suitcase, they find Vivian's mutilated body.
Mm-hmm. And the suspense is just done so well in that film.
We know she's in the blue suitcase.
Yeah, but even during that film, it's late at night. There's nobody else in the building. Possibly somebody else in one of the other studios far away, but he's got the red light on. Nobody will come in and disturb him. And you just know that he's going to do something vile to this woman. But the suspense of, she's clueless about it, and, it goes on for a long time.
It takes a long time to set that up, and it's a good long time.
Yeah. And then the next, when they're filming and the director decides, we need to do this in the luggage store, and you need to not be satisfied with the white one. You need to say, I want a red one. No, I want a blue one. And the look on Mark's face, the blue one. Yeah. And it was very heavy. The guy's moving it, and at first he's like, "Why is this one so heavy?" They drag
the empty ones with one hand, and this one's heavy.
Yeah. The suspense and the setups are really good in this.
The police detectives ride in the cab and talk about the case of the woman in the pre-credit sequence. They arrive at the studio to have examined Vivian's body, and the expression of fear is identical to the first girl. So that must have been something.
Mm-hmm.
They question everyone, and soon it's Mark's turn. Mark tries to film the investigators and nearly gets caught in the act.
Well, he does kind of, but they don't care. Yeah.
Well, he's way up in the rafters, filming down on them, and pencils fall out of his pocket.
That he does, yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, that night, Mark takes Helen out for dinner. Helen's alcoholic mother is blind, but she can usually sense when Mark's around. He gives her the creeps. Helen talks him into leaving his camera at home, and it's harder than he expects. He never leaves house without a camera, but this time he does, and they both have a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that if Mark gave up that camera, he'd probably be a normal guy.
Could be.
Later that night, Mark finds Helen's mother in his photo lab. He shows her his film of Vivian. She's blind, so she can't actually see anything. But the film didn't turn out quite right, so he says he needs another one right now.
Uh-oh.
He starts filming her, but for some reason stops before he kills her. She, turns out, may be weirder than he is. She knows what he was going to do, but she's okay about it. She tells him that all this filming isn't healthy and that he needs help. She forbids him from seeing Helen again. The next day on set, everyone's back at work getting ready for the movie again. The actress they have for the movie is a little on the high-strung side, and it goes very badly.
Oh, she was something. Yeah.
There's a psychiatrist on set that day to help with trauma, who didn't do a very good job with her.
No.
And Mark asks if the man knew his father. He did. He was studying something called scoptophilia, the need to be a peeping Tom. The old man gives Tom a card and says it can be cured. The psychiatrist then mentions the conversation to the detective.
Which makes the police start putting two and two together quickly.
Yeah, it's not really patient-client privilege because he's just stupid questions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That evening, Mark goes to his porn job, and he's followed by the police. Mark spots the cop outside and knows he's being followed. He films the detective on the street, and then sets about his work with Millie, and then leaves. We don't see what he does up there.
But something awful happened to Millie.
Yeah. Helen stops by to drop her book off at Mark's place and wanders into his film room. There's a film still on the projector, and she turns it on. It is one of his death films, and she sees it all. It's just a film, isn't it? She asks. But he admits it. No, I killed her. You're safe as long as I can't see that you're frightened, he explains. Yeah, he only kills the scared ones, so he scares you good before you die. If he can't see you being scared, you're good.
Yep, you'll be safe.
Just then, the man at the news agent's shop calls the police. He just found Millie, the porn model, murdered upstairs. The detective quickly puts two and two together and heads to Mark's place. Meanwhile, Mark explains his childhood to Helen and then films the police as they arrive. "I've been waiting for this for such a long time," he says, and photographs himself dying the same way he killed all the girls. The end. Art. Yes. One of the best parts of this film is the retro tech. The old radios, the tape players, what passed as a speakerphone, and the cameras, of course.
And there is a lot of tech.
Yeah, it's really it's like Mad Men, only with tech.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool display of technology from the late 50s and 60s. And they weren't even trying to do that because the film was from 60, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very suspenseful, and it looks great. Kevin mentioned early on that it was very Hitchcockian, and I have to agree. The scene with Vivian, for example, goes on for a very long time, and you know something bad is going to happen, but it really takes its good time to get there, and it pays off well. It's often compared to Psycho, which came out the very same year. Unfortunately, this one spent so many years being banned that it's not widely known. It's generally considered to be the first slasher movie, and it really is. But here's the weird part. We watched it and we're like, they banned this for nudity and ultra-violence, and yet there's no blood, there's no nudity, there's no bad language. We couldn't figure out why it had been banned for so many decades.
See, I think we saw a version that was slightly chopped.
All the versions had been slightly chopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, they edited this.
Turns out they edited it and then lost that little snips of footage. Millie, and there's trivia online and stuff, Millie talking about filming the nude scene and, completely nude. And
there's no
we're
nude
like, what?
scene.
She was nude? No, scantily dressed? But, yeah. And
you can imagine where the nude parts are, and you can certainly imagine the violence.
And they
Actually, it might be better without seeing the violence in this one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I guess they toned it down even some, but, kind of sad.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see the uncut version.
It was, considered so atrocious by the censors at the time that they clipped it up and cut it out, and then when they actually released it on DVD and Blu-ray, the original was gone.
Yeah, but still, you should see this.
Even what's left, I thought was very, very good.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Definitely worth seeing. All right, and that is our show for this week. Tune in next week where we'll have 4 more movies and a short, and we've got some good ones for you.
Yes, we do.
Stop in over at horrorguys.com to read all the reviews. Check out our books, Horror Guys, it's so hard to say.
Horror Guys.
The Horror Guys Guides, too, and various horror topics there. And, of course, horrorguys.com/monthly to pick up all our reviews in print, paperback, or ebook. Meanwhile, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.